Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to Tony the Technician's channel. And today on the Camaro build, just want to kind of cover some things. Previously, I think I finished up with the headlight wiring, so I was going to move on into the main wiring harness again and try and finish that up, but came across a little bit of an issue with my alternator. Just going to throw it out there now. So I was looking at my pulley system, which is off of a 92 Camaro, and it has the alternator and power steering and all that. Well, this 85 has a different alternator originally than what the 92s did. It was an old 12 SI, and I'm going to a CS 130, I believe it is. And so basically that just means my original wiring harness has a 2-pin connector, and one of the wires is just a pigtail that runs to the main power source bolt on the back of the alternator. And with the new one that I have, it is a 4-pin or 3-wire connector that goes to it. So obviously you can't put the 2-pin connector into the new alternator. It doesn't work that way. I was afraid that I was going to have to go find a different Camaro and chop the connector out of there and try and figure out some way to wire it up to this, or just run a 1-wire alternator, which is literally just running like the smallest you would want to go is like an 8-gauge power wire to the back of the alternator, and it has a self-exciter and everything. So that's one way I could do it without having to chop up another wiring harness to get that and try and figure it out. But I called Summit because even though I have an alternator that's, well, was good 8 years ago when I had it in another Camaro, but it's been sitting around and I spun it and it's pretty damn squeaky, and I really don't want to go start the car and just hear that thing spin and screech. And it's pretty old, so even though I do think it's good, I'm just going to go ahead and get a new one. Everything on this thing's brand new, so I might as well not cheap out on the alternator and just do it right the first time. So I'm gonna get a new alternator, and while I was on the phone with them, I talked to them. You know, I got an 85, I need a 92 because that's the pulley system setup that I'm using, or the brackets and everything. I need a 92 alternator. But I told them my problem, and they're like, oh, we actually have this connector. And it was like, well, through them it's like 25 bucks. You can find it on other sites for like 10 to 15 bucks. It basically literally takes my stock connector and transfers it into the new connector, so I can just straight plug and play. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. I got one, it's being shipped right now. I don't know how long till it comes in. So that will be my problem solver as far as the alternator, besides having to run a new wire from the battery because it's on the other side of the car now. The other thing I'm gonna be working on is soldering in this connector. It's for the fan relay. Even though I have my fan ran to a toggle, it still kind of runs through the relay. So I still plug in my toggle to this green wire, but all the other wires are chewed up. So I figured I might as well replace it. It was cheap enough, and I'm gonna solder it all instead of having those ugly butt connectors on there. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this episode, and then maybe trying to go through the wiring once again, make sure I don't have anything tucked that I'm going to need. So it's a pretty basic day of working on the car, nothing too exciting, but just want to fill you guys in, and we'll see where I go from there. Okay guys, so I got my little table set up since this wiring harness is part of the car and I can't bring it over to my workbench. Had to make a workbench. So basically what I got here is this, which is the one that we're going to be cutting off. I have this one prepped with heat shrink already on them, so when I solder them together I don't forget to put them on. Got everything I need. What we're going to start off with is we're just going to clip these back to about right here and then solder in this right here. Should be simple enough. And yeah, so I'm gonna get started and we'll see how it comes out. Alrighty guys, so we got the new wiring connector for the fan relay soldered in. See, I got heat shrink over it all. It's just these 3 wires right here, and this will be the wire that runs to my toggle. So that's all good. And then I showed you guys that I had a problem, or discussed with you that I had a problem with. This is being my original alternator connector, which this little eyelet would run to the bolt on the back of the alternator that has power from the battery. It jumps that for the exciter, and then you got your other main wire. And this is a 2-prong connector, whereas my actual alternator, being the newer version, it is, I don't even think you guys can see it, but there's 4 prongs in there, and it actually takes a 3-wire connector. So I didn't know what I was gonna do until, obviously I told you guys that they make a connector to convert it, and that came in today. So what I have here is the connector. You can get this in 2 different versions. You can get it with a wire or a resistor in one of the wires, and that's for if you don't have a dummy light, because you have to have resistance so you don't damage your alternator. Well, I didn't have to get the one with the resistor in the wire because I have a dummy light which acts as the resistor. If you have an actual voltage gauge in your car, the stock one, then you would get the version with the resistor in the wire. So I got this. This will plug right into my newer alternator, and then this end plugs in right here with this, and this will still go to the bolt on the back of the alternator. I still have to solder this because somebody mutilated it as well. So we still got some work to do, but this came in today so I can work on that. I also got my new blower motor shroud, I guess you would call it, or casing. I still need to pull this off of the old one. This is the resistor and everything, and mount it in here. But other than that, I will need a shorter fan, but I think until then I'm just gonna mount it all up and test fit it, because I do have to send this out, as well as this nose panel, and get them painted carbon fiber, or hydro dipped carbon fiber. But this one I test fitted already, and right here it hits, I believe it's right here, hits one of the heater core lines that come out of the firewall. So I might have to cut a little corner off of this, which isn't bad because this is all fiberglass. Just if you have to do the same thing, make sure you wear a mask and gloves, because this stuff is not fun to cut. But that's where I'm at right now, and we'll see where it goes from there. Okay, so what I've done so far is I've test fitted this in, I put my blower motor in, and I lined it all up and marked where I need to drill the holes just for the blower motor. Then we'll have to go back once I get this section cut out. This is where one of the heater core hoses go. So I need to cut that out to make some room for it. And then what we'll have to do is go through and try and line up as best as possible the already existing holes that mount this in the vehicle. These 2 spots up here, you got another one up here. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see. You got a few at the bottom. And then once it comes back from hydro dipping, we'll have to use like 3M tape or a sealer on the back as we bolt it to the firewall. But right now I'm just gonna go ahead and drill these holes out and cut this section out, and then it'll be ready to be sent out. Alrighty guys, so I got the holes drilled and the notch cut out. Sorry, it's a little close. As you can see, the holes are drilled, as well as the notch is cut out over here. I did sand it up with some sandpaper after cutting it. But we're gonna go ahead and test fit it now to see if it clears that heater core hose. So it's going to clear the heater core hose. It can't sit all the way back because there's still a screw or a bolt coming through the firewall right here, which I'll drill a hole right there to match that up so it can slide over that. And that's where this wiring harness right here gets held on. So I think it's gonna work great right there where it is. These holes in the back where screws actually go in line up with the frame of the new housing. So I think we're good to go, and I'm gonna see if I can get that hole to line up so I can get that through there. Okay guys, so I got the hole drilled up there, and that's all taken care of. So let's test fit it now, see if we can actually get it to sit up against the firewall completely. And it does. It sits up against the firewall now. It definitely needs bolted down though, because it does not sit like flush tight up against, so it definitely needs bolted down. A few fasteners right here should hold it nice and tight up against the firewall. And we'll make sure to use a sealer and everything to make sure that it's got a nice tight seal when we finally install it. But I already took the fan off the blower motor since I can't use the one that comes on it. But that is how it will sit right there. But obviously I need to clean all this up because that looks like crap compared to everything else. And once this gets hydro dipped, I really don't want it to look like this. So that's how it'll sit, nice tight fit, and I'm pretty happy with it. Alrighty, sorry about the lighting guys. So I got all the holes drilled exactly where they need to be. Got one on bottom. There's nothing down there except for you see the two large holes, which I'm not going to be using. I just put a hole in the bottom where I know there's not a hole on the firewall, and I'm going to put a self-tapping screw right there because I know there's nothing behind it where I'll be drilling into. But everything lines up and mounts really well. So all these holes up top line up with their mounting points, and then the one on the bottom I told you about. And I already bolted it in once before. It holds nice and tight, and it'll be even better when I get either the 3M tape or some kind of sealer on the back there. So I think it's pretty good. A little bit of fabrication that needs to be done in order to get these to go in, but overall not too bad. It's not hard, just takes a little bit of time. But that's it. Okay guys, so that's basically it as far as today's work. Got that new fan relay connector soldered in, got the connector to convert from the old alternator to the new alternator, got in my blower motor housing, the aftermarket one without the AC system or anything in it, and mocked it up, had to cut it a little bit, drill a few holes to make sure it'll be able to mount. I had to do that now because I'm sending it to a buddy of mine, and he's gonna hydro dip the nose panel and the blower motor cover carbon fiber. And then, because I didn't want to do that after he painted it because I didn't want to take the chance of chipping it or anything. So, got that all done, it's good to go. Now I gotta clean up like this, the actual blower motor. Gotta clean it up, clean up like my electrical fan and all that stuff, because I need to paint those as well. Another thing is that I'll be getting done here soon is the actual mounts for all the pulleys and accessories and stuff. I'm gonna have those powder coated black to kind of match everything better. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's coming along slowly but surely. Pretty happy with it so far. Let me know what you guys think about the project so far, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Comment if you have any questions, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We're almost to 1,000. I think we just hit 900, so that's amazing. And once we hit 1,000, I'll be doing another gift giveaway. So stay tuned, and thank you for your support.